Okay, so hello to all of you and welcome to our today's webinar, Process Mining Meets Advanced Data Analytics and AI, Optimizing Business Operations. And before we start, a couple of words to the housekeeping. So this webinar will last about 45 minutes, and in the end we will have a question and answering. Therefore, we have around 50 minutes to answer all of your questions. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A section. The button for that is on the top in this Teams meeting. The webinar is recorded, and afterwards we will share the recording with all of you. And if it will be the case that we cannot answer a question, please relax. We will catch up with you after the webinar. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Moritz Lang. I work as a data scientist here at DAB, and with my team, I'm focusing on bringing AI on the one hand into our products, and on the other hand, we try to make internal processes more efficient. I work for DAB since 2019, so around about 5 years, and I lead the data science team. Let's have a quick look at today's agenda. First, there is a short introduction of DAB. Then Philip will talk about the business challenge. He will present the proper solution. He will showcase the solution. Afterwards, we will talk about our current research project, Kaiga, and at least there will be the Q&A. So, some facts and figures about the DAB, or in German, our full name, DAB, Daten, Analysen und Beratung GmbH. DAB was founded in 2004, so we are now 20 years old. 50 employees, we serve more than 250 customers in more than 20 countries. And what we do in a nutshell, we provide software, and with our flagship software, you can extract data from SAP and analyze it. On the next slide, we can see a couple of customers of us. And there are some well-known companies, as you can see. And today I will not be the only speaker, so there will be Philip Kinke, a colleague of mine, and Philip works for DAB since 2017, so around about 7 years now, and he serves as a global partner manager. So Philip, it's your turn. Can you give us some insights on the business challenge, please?
Yeah, for sure. So also warm welcome from my side, and happy to host this webinar again together with my colleague, Moritz. So let me first start with a few words about the business challenge. I mean, when we talk about process mining, that's nothing which is a very new topic. I mean, we're talking about process mining for the last 15 years. But what was or what has changed is that we are now partnering with Microsoft, and Microsoft has focused on process mining also as a big part of the hyper automation platform. And a little bit of this we will see in today's webinar. But first, let me tackle a little bit of the business challenge when we talk about process mining and different process mining tools. So in a lot of cases, process mining tools which we can buy on the market are pretty isolated solutions. So it is not very integrated in existing solutions. So you buy an add-on, so you buy something new, you buy something totally different, which means also you need implementation, you need training efforts for all your colleagues, you need the new purchasing process, and so on and so on. Besides this, we also have an issue with the data access and data preparation. When we want to do process mining, we want to compare mostly a few years with each other. So if we think of the purchase to pay process, and this is also what I will focus today in my examples, and we think that we want to look back and see like the last 3 years of P2P process, like what has happened. then the bigger your company is, the more transactions you will have. So you will have all the purchasing data from the last 3 years, all the accounts payables data for this 3 years, all the goods received data for this 3 years. So we have a very large amount of data from SAP. And here, a lot of tools and data extraction comes to their limit. And if you think of just extracting all the tables you need from SE16, I would say this costs so much time and effort that you would probably not do the part of process mining. And then you have the data, and then you need to combine it correctly. And if you think of the complicated data model from SAP, then we're talking about dozens of tables or hundreds of 50, 60, 70 tables, which you need to combine to actually get the information you need to get together the purchase requisition with the purchase order, with the goods receipt, with the invoice receipt, and also the payment in your system. That now just for the purchase to pay process. When we talk about order to cash or also production, etc., it's even more. And what we also see is that a lot of tools have a single purpose only. So they show you a process mining graph. So you have that spaghetti model ready. Then you can go in, do some filterings, some analytics on this in the process mining stuff. But this is more or less, you have to do it on your own. And so process mining is done because you want to do process mining. And that also means that we build up like totally different separate departments. So we have teams of 5 to 10 people who only do process mining, but sometimes do not actually have the combination or the knowledge of the departments, etc. And also, if you do not combine it with existing controls where you already have your set of controls, may it be related to your internal control system, to your audit departments, if you're a SOX or JSOX or UK SOX doing, forced to do, then you need to figure out these issues or these controls on your own in the process mining graph, which means a lot of effort on doing so. And therefore, we were, together with Microsoft, putting up a solution which takes both the strength of Microsoft, so the integration, and our strength of 20 years of experience in data analytics and also of process mining. So we started with process mining already in our first big customer project at Bayer AG in Leverkusen. So quite some years of experience in here. And for those who attend our webinars pretty often, that graphic should be well known to you. So what we actually do is show the process, which I will give you an insight in just a bit. So with our data analytics platform, DAB Nexus, we can automatically create a data extraction. So what we actually do is, if you decide for a specific event log or a group of events combined with data analytics, then it's just like a few clicks and the Nexus already knows what kind of data is needed. So it extracts the data fully automatically when you have decided for what kind of analytics you want to have. And then the event log is created. So it takes the tables, the raw data tables from the SAP system, pulls them out, prepares them so that we get event logs. And an event log is just a data analytic. So it's also columns and rows. But we need to connect the dots so that we know which purchase order belongs to what kind of goods received and what kind of invoice received, etc. So these information we prepare. And then we have the possibility to also combine it with our standard analytics from the DAB Analytics suite. So we could say, I want to combine it with invoices without purchase order, duplicate payments, CPD transactions, SOD conflicts, etc., etc. So this is also predefined up front. And then the events are flagged if they occur in one of your process deviations. And with that preparation, which is done more or less fully automatically, we give it over to our partner, the Microsoft Power Platform. And here we have the Microsoft Power Automate Process Mining tool, which is also combinable with Microsoft Power BI. So a well-known tool, which is already part of most of the companies. And there you can process the event logs. You can share it with the right people. You can integrate it in your Power BI dashboarding, in your reporting system, and do the actual mining. And I will show you later how this looks. So the tools we are offering are fully integrated into the Microsoft environment. So with DAB Nexus and DAB Analytics Suite on the one hand, and Microsoft Power Automate Platform on the other hand. We can build a solution which is not isolated and an add-on tool fully on another platform. So if you decided already to use Microsoft, to also use Azure Cloud or maybe Fabric or whatsoever, we can fully integrate the solutions into this. And as you know, also from the last webinars, we always can offer a DAB link that if you want to investigate on your certain documents, you can jump directly back to your SAP system. So this integration, I will show you now a little bit live, but first, please let me go through the steps once more. So the event log generation is done in a few clicks. I will show you in a second. So you can schedule this. That means you can decide, do you want to have that event log generated only once, which means you will get this now and then do your mining. You decide. You can also do it on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis so that we update the event log. And here you have multiple ways on how you can handle this. So you can always generate new event logs. So if you say you want it quarterly and you look for it on a quarterly basis, then you can override. If you want to have like an ongoing, recurring extract or preparation, then we can also append the results so that we have in the future like a more or a larger model which you can go through. So this is fully up to you and can be also done easily. Then the next step would be you define your parameters. So you say, what fiscal year do you want? Do you want to have your stuff exchanged, so the currencies, so that you report everything in euro? Do you want to exclude intercompany processes? So here we can, or everyone can configure, and this is very easy. So every user could be able to do so. And the good thing is, if you set it up like on a schedule, then you don't have to worry about this in the future anymore. So very easy. You just define in the end company codes. Now I needed to sneeze. I'm sorry. You define your company codes, you define your language, and then everything will be prepared on the spot for you. And then it starts with the extraction. And this slide is, just for you as an information, like how it looks when you actually extract this. So this is the technical background, where you see that we have more than 52 tables we need to extract and combine to get an event log. So just keep this in mind. This is all done in the background and you don't need to worry about this. Yeah, so that's how easy it is to actually get the event logs up and running. And that combination, or also the pipeline between DAB Nexus results and the Power Platform can be configured easily so that you can set up new event log every time, or that it's recurring updates, which is always added. So we can make it in a way that's a self-service for every process mining user, for all the process miners in your company. And there's not much technical knowledge needed. So you just need to know, do I want purchase to pay? Do I want order to cash? And we can combine the right analytics, which we have predefined upfront. So you just need to know these things, which you also need to know for your process mining itself. And now the second point, and I would say a very important topic. So as you can see on the right, we have a lot of predefined analytic. We can combine it in dashboards, etc. So we have closed questions which are already existing. And when we combine these predefined questions with your process mining event logs, this can lead to a higher efficiency, because you don't have to rebuild process deficiencies in your event log by a lot of filterings, etc. So if you want to investigate like why you have, or why some red flags occur, and I will show you on a small example how this could work in just a second. But if you want to find out, like, I have duplicate payments, I'm pretty sure about this, but why do they occur? Can I change something in the process that they won't occur in the future anymore? Or invoices without purchase order. So is just the purchase order in the beginning missing? Or is the rest of the process also different? Do I somehow have maybe some other steps in between? Or do I also don't have, for example, goods receipts, etc., etc.? Or do I have goods receipt but no purchase order and all that stuff? So you can also go deeper into this. CPD transactions, SOD testing, etc., etc. So we can already give you the processes where we have these deviations, where you can have a closer look only on these. And that gives you the possibility and the power where the combination of process mining and the conventional data analytics, let's call it like this, can help you to also in the future prevent these non-compliant actions to happen. And now let's have a look on the actual mining parts. So this is the Power Automate Process Mining desktop app. And this is for the people who actually want to go deep into the mining parts. And I have a purchase to pay process uploaded here. And we can have a look at that default process. So now it's connecting to the Power Platform and extracts the process for me. And what you see here is what we know from every process mining. We get a graph, and when we go in, you can see we have a starting point. Then we have the purchase requisition creation, then sometimes an approval, Sometimes we have a PO item which is created on the contract base. Then we have the PO creation, PO document approval, goods received, invoice received, payment run, etc. So, and a lot of other activities as well. So when we set this to 100%, we can see all the activities which happen in our process. Also the path, how many paths are we having? And if I just reduce a little bit of the complexity, we see the standard process we want to see. Purchase requisition, purchase order, document approval, a goods received, an invoice received, and then we have a payment run. So standard process from P2P, how we all know them. And also, if we have a little bit more than of the activities, then we also see that we have some invoice without purchase order in our process as well. If we also minimize them, we just get the same process. What we have also, and this is very important, and this also is a short preview of what Morris is going to tell you in a little bit, are the variants we are talking about. So every process consists of different variants. And what is a variance? When we're talking about variants, we have activities, and the activities in a certain variant are always the same. So for variant 1, these are 24% of all our cases. We have the purchase requisition, we have the purchase order, the document approval, the goods received, the invoice received, and the payment run. So this is our standard process. But for example, if you would have 2 invoice receipts after each other, 2 goods receipts after each other, etc., this would be a new variant. So that makes a high complexity out of variance, and can lead to a lot of overwhelming mining. But we will come to this on a later point. So this is a little bit a bottleneck, because to actually go through this can be very time consuming. And on our customer day, we had one customer who was also showcasing like how they do data analytics in this company. And they had 1.2 million different variants for a certain process. So you can see that this whole variant topic can get pretty big. But now, I promised you I don't talk too much about just simple process mining of doing like process mining for itself. No, we want to look now at the combination with data analytics. And we have prepared already a few data analytics for you, how this would be looking. And let's go on our bestseller, the duplicate payments, because no one of you wants to actually lose money. So let's have a look at our process for duplicate payments. And this is now the process graph for all the process, or for all the processes where one of the process steps is also part of our potential duplicate payment analytic. So when one of our invoices is marked as a potential duplicate payment, we put also the whole process marked as a process for getting out a potential duplicate payment. And now let's have a look at our process. And what we see here is we have the starting point. In that one part, we have the PO document approval, we have the PO item creation, get an invoice receipt, payment run, which goes back. So we have some loops here, some other clearings, and then that ends. For the rest, or most of the rest, we have invoices without a purchase order. So this already means that most of our of our duplicate payments also consist of invoices without purchase orders, which means, okay, we might have an issue. So the chance of having a duplicate payment gets bigger when you have no purchase order. Makes somehow sense, I would say. And now one other thing we can do, and this is, I mean, duplicate payment is just our example, but we can have this with every other of our 300 analytic steps. We just need to have like one thing in mind, so we can only combine analytics which also fit to the corresponding event log. Yeah, so you cannot have an analytic in sales when we are talking about purchase to pay. But this should be clear. But we can also use now the process compare button. And so what we could do is, on the one hand, you could upload a BPMN layer. So you could say, I want to compare it with our standard process, how we defined them, these processes and the steps. So then you can see the difference of should be and duplicate payments. But you could also now add the default process. And now what we see is the difference of standard process, how it is, not just should be, and duplicate payments. And now what you see is the red process steps, the red activities, are only found in the default process, but not for potential duplicate payments. If we would have a process step which would only be part of the duplicate payments, then it would be in blue. And the process steps they have in common are green. And what you can do now, as we already lead you to the fact, like, how does duplicate payments occur? Okay, some of these process steps, these activities were not part. So you can see we don't have any duplicate payments or potential duplicate payments with goods receipts. So every time we actually get like the standard process of purchasing something, getting a goods receipt, getting an invoice receipt to this, that does not happen, that we have a duplicate payment. And now you can actually focus on preventing. So you can say, we always need some kind of goods receipt, or we define a control in a way that where we cannot have a goods receipt, for example, for energy supply, water supply, or whatsoever, we need another maybe approval process, another process step in between that checks on if these are potential duplicate payments. And so in the future, you can prevent duplicate payments to happen. So that was now the combination of data analytics in the process mining app. I also told you that it might make sense to combine it to your existing systems, to not have something which is fully isolated from your already existing solutions. And therefore, and this is the good thing of Microsoft Power Automate Process Mining, it is easily combinable with Power BI. So once you have already a Power BI reporting system in your company, we could also build some Power BI dashboards which lead to the things you want to look at. And for the ones who already know our analytics, you can see these are standard analytics out of our portfolio. And when we think back of our process, this is down here, we can also lower the variant complexity, and then you would see that it will actually be more easy in the process, etc., etc. So, but now we can also select how does this look for specific, for our specific analytics. So we have, for example, outlying agreements. That means we do not book our purchase order on existing contracts with that vendor, SOD conflicts, price changes in the process, etc., etc. We have different invoice value versus purchase order values. And or the user of the goods received equals the user of the purchase order. And now we can just simply click on these analytics, and then we can see in how many of these cases is this happening. So we have 210 different cases where the user of the goods received is equal to the user of the purchase order. And also you can see now the actual process mining graph. And now you can see, okay, do we have any issues in here? So is this still the standard process? Or do we have maybe also when we talk about how long does it take in between the process steps? Because if we have similar users, we could now have a look. So if you want to betray your company and you book yourself like a goods received and a purchase order and get things for you. So maybe you do it directly on your desk, you create a purchase order, 5 minutes later you create the goods received, and that's it. So you can now also compare the times, etc., and go a little bit deeper into the investigation of these SOD conflicts. And also we can have a look similar to this one also on our variance. So we can now see, do we have for this specific red flag analytics, specific variance are compared to the standard variance, are we missing some of the process steps in between? So with that said, that makes it very convenient to investigate on the one hand, but also to use your existing reporting system so that you don't need to learn a new tool, because you can use Power BI. You can share these process insights you gain from process mining also with everyone else in the organization who has that access to these dashboards. And you can build on top of these more and more dashboards with your dashboarding teams, etc. And also next step can then be call to action. So do we need to change something in the processes? Do we need to go into SAP and perform some more checks in there? And for this, we will also have later this year another webinar with one of our partners when it comes to the whole automation on how we can get these insights to action. So also be prepared to this one. So you can see a lot of possibilities. And the USPs that we have are the integration into the Power Platform. So no extra tool. It is all already when you're using Microsoft. So it is fully embedded. That also gives us a short implementation time. We have predefined analytics. We have predefined event logs. We have a platform already in place, the Microsoft Power Platform. So we just need a few configurations on your systems, and then we can make it run in just a couple of days. So the time to graph, time to insight is pretty short. And also our data extraction technology is very performant. So no matter if you want to combine hundreds of millions of records with each other, that is not a big issue. So we can get all the data you need for your process mining. And that also leads as you saw in the beginning, to the positive thing that we can serve almost every company using SAP, because we have service companies, we have public companies, we have private companies, we have the public sector, from manufacturing to public institutions, etc., etc. So the basis just needs to be like the easy access, or our step in is the SAP system. And yeah, with that said, we would like to have an outlook, because I already told you that we have some problematic facts with variance. And I think Moritz, as a data scientist, tried to also simplify a little bit the work of a process miner, and therefore has a research project he will talk about now.
Perfect, exactly. So let's talk about our current research project called KIGA. So in German, this is KI-unterstützte Geschäftsprozessanalyse, or in English, it is AI-supported business process analytics. And to explain what we do and did in this research project, let's have a look at the following order-to-cash process graph. And as you can see, in this graph, we see nothing at all, because this graph has a huge complexity and it always leads to an overload, and it makes it very difficult for any user to gain any valuable insights from such a graph. And this is exactly where we come in with a research project. And before we talk about the intermediate results of that research project, let's have a look at the 3 KPIs at the top. So at first, we can see that we have 1 million cases, we have 31,000 variants, and a variant is always a combination of activities. The third KPI tells us we have 21 activities, so one activity in this order-to-cash process will be the clearing, the invoice, the delivery, and so on. So we have 21 different activities, and out of those 21 activities, there are 31,000 combinations. And now, as I said, the biggest problem with process mining so far is that the process mining graphs are always overloaded. And in this research project, where we work together with the University of Bamberg and the University of Deckendorf, we invented the following clustering to break down the complexity of such graphs. And in the following 2 bar charts at the top right, we can see that the cluster gets divided, that the original graph gets divided into 9 clusters. So from cluster 0, 1, 2, 3 up to cluster number 8. And now if I click on cluster number 5 at the top, then there is this drill down. And before we talk about the process mining graph now at the bottom, let's have a quick look at the bar chart at the top. We can see that cluster number 5 contains 400,000 cases. So now we have a look at 40% of the data. And those 40% of the data, so nearly the half of the data, can be visualized by the process mining graph down below. And that one now is pretty easy. We have the order itself, we have a delivery, an invoice, and the clearing. So this is cluster number 5 out of the original process mining graph. And please keep in mind, now we look at 40% of the data, and the process mining graph now is highly interpretable. Let's have a look at another cluster, a smaller one. I click on cluster number 3 at the bottom in the bar chart. We can see that we have a total of around about 75,000 cases. And again, this process mining graph now at the bottom for this cluster, for those 74,000 cases, is pretty simple. We only have 3 activities and we have 671 variants. I can read that from the KPIs at the top. So in that research project we currently work on, we try to find out a methodology how to break down the complexity of such process mining graphs, and we used that approach of clustering the data. And I don't want to cherry pick the clusters here, so let's have a look at cluster number 6. Cluster number 6 contains around about 200,000 cases, so around about 20% of the cases. And now we can see the graph is bigger than the graphs before from cluster number 5 and 3, but still this process mining graph is still more interpretable, or interpretable in comparison to the original process mining graph. And it gets even more interesting if we have a look at the next slide, and if we compare two different clusters. So on the left side now we have cluster number 8, and on the right side we have cluster number 3. And as you can see, those clusters look very similar, but the left one is a little bit more complex. The left one, I think, has a little bit more loopbacks. And now, before I do the interpretation by myself, let's do the interpretation and especially the interpretation of the differences, like everyone would do it in 2024. Let's simply ask ChatGPT about it. So before we hand over these two clusters to ChatGPT, a little recap. On the left side now we can see 2 out of 9 clusters from an O2C process mining graph. This methodology was invented in our current research project called Kaiga. And now on the right side, I handed over those 2 clusters as a screenshot to ChatGPT, and I added the prompt, compare these 2 order-to-cash process mining graphs and point out the differences. And it turned out that it works pretty well. So ChatGPT then tells us the left graph shows a detailed order-to-cash process with multiple intermediate stages: order, delivery, delivery, release, billing, release, and invoice. It shows many loopbacks, particularly in delivery and order stages, indicating a more complex process. So I think this works pretty well. For the right cluster, it says, so ChatGPT says the right graph presents a simplified process with clear main steps: order, delivery, invoice, clearing, and so on. Then ChatGPT tells us the differences. A significant difference is the presence of the clearing step in the right graph, which is absent in the left one, and so on. And as you can see, with this methodology of clustering a process mining graph, even the follow-up with generative AI is now possible. And to summarize our whole research project Kaiga, as we have seen, a process like the order-to-cash process we have seen so far usually has thousands of variants, and this leads to a high complexity in those process mining graphs. And this is exactly where we come in with a research project where we tried to cluster such a process mining graph as we have seen in different clusters. And that methodology was developed in our current research project called Kaiga. And now we come to an end, and Philip, can you please summarize the most important points of today's webinar, please?
Yeah, for sure. I can. So thanks for that great outlook. And I think this can be something very interesting in the future. So, but maybe start first of what I told. So the key outcomes of this webinar are that I hope you saw that the combination of DAB and Microsoft offer a very slim but mighty solution when it comes to process mining. So you can use existing tools and templates and just combine it with each other. So our data analytics platform built in Microsoft and the Microsoft Power Automate process mining. And that also gives you the possibility to combine data analytics with process minings to find the process deviations much faster. As we have 20 years of experience in data analytics, in process analytics and process mining, that combination offers you a great foundation for your first steps, or also for your deep dive into process mining. As Moritz said, we are at the moment researching heavily on reducing the complexity for your process mining efforts. So as you saw, I talked about the presentation on our customer day 2 weeks ago, where the variance of that presenting company for that one process was 1.2 million variants. that is something you cannot overlook. If you actually go through the variants one by one to find out, like, do we have any issues here? I think you would almost need your whole working life to go after them. When we now think of that artificial intelligent clustering and see that we can reduce it to like a couple, or yeah, may it be 20, but 20 is still something which you can overlook easy. And this also gives you the possibility to, when we think back on the combination of data analytics, to see, do we have, like, for example, duplicate payments always in one cluster? Then maybe this one cluster is something you have, or you need to have a closer look at. Then a very big thing is we have a short implementation time. So if you already use our solutions, it is just like a new analytic and the enablement of the Power Automate process mining. So this can be done in just a few minutes. When you don't have the solutions already in place, it can be like an implementation time of roughly a day. That means we can set this up not in a half a year implementation process, but from now to the graph can be just in a couple of days. So you can get a quick ROI as well. And as already mentioned, the automation possibilities on the Power Platform, the combination with like playing something back, etc. These automation possibilities you have on the Power Platform also offers a big advantage, which we will show you more like after our summer break. With that said, that was our webinar. You can now post questions in the Q&A section at the top. But while you're typing your questions, let me give you a short outlook also to our next webinar, which will take place in September. So the actual time and date will be sent around by our colleagues like pretty soon. In the next webinar, we will show our newest product in the DAB family, Nexus Loom, which is a software as a service solution on the Microsoft Fabric stack, which can also lead and generate, for example, process mining event logs, but as a SaaS solution. So all of you who are interested on like getting data analytic as a SaaS solution, please feel free to also have a look at our Loom webinar in roughly 1 or 2 months. And with that said, we come to the Q&A section, and maybe first very important thing is, yes, the session is recorded and can be viewed again later. So how did you manage to implement the clustering into Microsoft Process Mining? Is there an interface? So maybe this is a good question to you, Moritz, and said maybe something in the beginning. So we are researching on this, so that's not a part of the product now. That's just said, but how do you do this?
So this one is pretty easy to answer. So during the event log creation, the clustering is done. The clustering is added as information on top, and then afterwards that information can be used in Power Automate to cluster the data, or more precisely to show the clusters. So there is no need for an interface. The clustering is done while the event log creation is done.
Yeah, see it as like you have one more information on your event, which just shows like this is cluster 1, 2, 3, or whatsoever. And based on this, we can easily build in Power BI like some dashboards where you can filter on the clusterings, as you can also filter, for example, by now on certain resources on, I don't know. But yeah, this is just an add-on which we directly put in at the creation time.
Right. Okay, Philip. Then there is, I think, a question for you. Are the process maps created automatically in the tool out of the extracted data, or do I have to design them in advance?
So when you connect the Power Automate process mining to an event log, then when you do it the first time manually, you need to define, okay, which is our case ID, what is the event, and what is the timestamp. That's easily done because the fields in our process mining event logs are named the same way. So that's just saying this is this, that is that, and so on. So 3 clicks. And then you click on process. And then in the background, there will be the process mining graph created. So then you have this spaghetti graph. This is done automatically with a few algorithms. And you got this. And now also the variance is a predefined stuff. So you have some predefined graphs, and everything which you want to have on top can then be defined the same way as you build a Power BI dashboard. So you have almost full flexibility when it comes to Power BI. And everything you have in the Power Automate Process Mining app, this is more or less predefined, but you can do a lot of filtering, etc., etc. So yeah, the process mining spaghetti graphs are predefined, created automatically. The rest, additional stuff in Power BI, you can add on top. But then every time you change the database in the background, so for example, you add a new event log, the data is refreshed and you don't need to rebuild everything on your own. So you can just say, yeah, I change the event log, so my new event log is shown in the same Power BI dashboard.
Okay, then there is another question, Philip. Is this tool or software, I think, only compatible with SAP?
So the solution we provided now, the fully automated, etc. solution, this is based on SAP. That doesn't mean that we cannot connect this to other sources as well. We're talking about the Microsoft Power Platform. So you can also connect Microsoft Power Automate Process Mining to all other data sources. The biggest problem is usually that it's not so easy to have a standardized approach on getting an event log. But for example, we can add also different data sources to your process. And I have seen that there's a different question if we have the supplier management, for example, outside of SAP. So we could say we take the SAP event log and then add it a little bit, adjust it a little bit, and combine it with the data from the previous process. So this is possible, but there is not, I would say, such a standard process. So as we have the possibility to adjust the scripts, to configure and customize the scripts, also the event log creation, we can combine it with additional data and additional data sources. And that means we are more or less open also to other systems, especially when you have some built systems which are previous to your process, but also if you would handle, for example, the payment process outside of SAP.
Okay.
And then there was also like the second part of the question, how do we support the integrations with data analytics? Yeah, same answer, I would say. So there's then no standard. So maybe we somehow need to build like some own analytics for these systems before. But we have, yeah, the possibility to do so with a few scripting effort. What we recommend is for a POC and for maybe like the first steps with process mining to leave it as standardized as possible. So start with the core of the process and look at what we can already build, and then define what else or what additional data we need, and then go step by step. But this also leads, because sometimes more data of the previous system is mirrored into SAP than you might think. And so sometimes we don't even need so much of the data of the previous systems as we thought up front, because it's stored in some other fields or tables or whatsoever. And so this can be found out in a POC, or however you might call this.
Okay, I think that's it with the questions. We answered all of them.
One more. No, there was just like thank you from one of the participants. He's looking forward to the September webinar, or she. So yeah, that's also what we are now saying. Thanks for attending.
Thanks a
lot. It was
lot.
great to all host you. Have a great day, and whenever you have questions regarding process mining with Microsoft, DAB, to the research project, please feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, we will get in contact with you and answer all of your questions.
Perfect. Have a nice day. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.